Hello, grade 12s. Welcome back. It's Economics with Ms. Piwe, and we are now going to move on and look at imperfect competition. So competition in market economies is limited by the power of certain producers to prevent new businesses from entering the market. Okay, and then we call this barriers to entry. This is imperfect competition, because if it was perfect competition, there will be free entry and exit to the market. So now we know that businesses or firms do this in order to block new businesses from entering the market. Now let's move on to our next point and look at the barriers to entry. So barriers to entry are created because of advertising, a lack of capital, and also controlling of resources. Okay, so we know that businesses could invest a lot of money on advertising campaigns in order to try and dominate the market space. Also, lack of capital, because other sectors are quite intense on the amount of capital that is needed in order to enter the market. So that on its own does serve as a market barrier. And also because of the controlling of resources. So other businesses may feel that they want to dominate the control of resources, and therefore they will then block out other businesses or firms from coming into the market space in order to control it and influence the price. So the imperfect market doesn't allow for price negotiations. So you can't have that, because businesses use barriers to block competitors. So you're not in a position to have price negotiations. You're almost like a price taker. So you have to take the price that is determined by that market. So advertising is used to promote producer dominance, which encourages consumers to buy existing products and allows producers to delay new products from entering the market until it is their own interest. Okay, so there are some selfish reasons that happened here. So they will dominate the market using the strong, powerful marketing campaigns, and also they will delay new products from entering the market until it suits them to have them in that market. So advertising is used to achieve this. For example, businesses have had the technology to produce long life light bulbs for many years, but have chosen not to launch them in the market. Okay, so they will delay because they may want to flush out the stock that they have before introducing a new product. So they want us to consume all that they have manufactured, because if they bring it in, we will be taken by the hype and the excitement of a new product, and then we'll forget about the old product. So then they say, what are we supposed to do with the old product? Because it's been manufactured already. So we must sell this and hang on to the exciting idea until this is consumed. And then when this is consumed, then we can bring in the new idea or new product into the market. We know that lack of information is one of the features of the imperfect market, that information is not completely made available to the buyers and sellers. So consumers, workers, and entrepreneurs do not have the necessary information to make rational decisions. So this results in resources not being allocated efficiently because of the lack of information. And that is the nature of an imperfect market, that, you know, there are other people that have exclusive information, and they want to keep it to themselves in order to keep or maintain or gain a competitive advantage. So this does result in other new businesses not finding themselves in a position where they can make rational decisions, because they don't have the necessary information that is needed in order for them to do so. So what about consumers? So to maximize their benefits, consumers need detailed information about goods and services, although technology offers this to the consumer, they obviously do not have the perfect information. So if you want to purchase a very expensive item, you would need all the information that you could possibly get in order to make that decision. For example, you want to purchase a luxury car that's worth 2.5 million rand. You are going to need detailed information in terms of the features of the car, the speed, the engine, and also what are the maintenance plans around around that car, so that you don't end up incurring the additional costs in order to service the car. And then for workers, they're often unaware of job opportunities. Sometimes people say there are vacancies in a particular sector, but that information hasn't been communicated to the working force to say that you can now go and apply. There's a job opportunity in a sector or within the business. So it's important that this information is shared with the workers in order to go back to the perfect market. And entrepreneurs also complain that there is lack of information on costs, availability, and productivity of factors of production. Impacts their effectiveness because they don't have complete information on the availability of resources. Because remember, the entrepreneur needs to use the other factors of production, which are capital and labor, and also land or natural resources. And we say that the entrepreneur combines these factors in order to fill a gap in the market. So they find themselves not in a position to do so because limited information is available, and they can't use that information in order to make sound decisions or rational decisions. So it's important that they have access to the information in the market. So back into the factors of production. So we're looking at whether they are mobile or not. So labor takes time to move from one area to another. So we've established this, and that is a fact. So the supply of skilled labor cannot be increased because of the time it takes to be trained or to be educated. Okay, so you want to go and become a medical doctor. So that's 7 years of studying and another 3 years, if I'm correct, or of community service. And I think it's 9 years to qualify to become a medical doctor. I'm not quite sure, and I stand to be corrected. So it takes long to transfer the skill because of the training and the education that actually needs to happen. There was a situation where we were saying we have a shortage of teachers in our country. So it was taking long to get young people to be interested in the profession and to go through the proper training in order to become teachers. So they will need to go through a four-year training course or degree in order to become an educator. So that the duration makes it difficult to move labor from one area to another based on the training and the education that is involved in that process. Also, physical capital like factory buildings or infrastructure such as telephone lines cannot be reallocated easily. Okay, so all these things, because of the network, the cabling and the structures, so it becomes very difficult to reallocate these items. So the movement of these factors under physical capital makes it difficult because they are not easily reallocated. And also the structural changes that happen. So structural changes like a change from producing plastic packets to paper packets, or shifting from labor-intense production to computer-based production, requires a change in laborers' skills, employment, and work patterns. And this takes time to change, and that's when technology came into the market space. People were so skeptical that, I'm not going to cope because, I'm so used to doing things this way, and now all of a sudden I'm exposed to a new way of doing items or of manufacturing goods and services. So it does get people to be a bit anxious. So all those things need to be taken into consideration in order for the change to be effective. Proper training and education needs to happen, but that does take time, and it also upsets the work patterns, because other people will decide to leave the work environment because they feel anxious about the changes that have been introduced. And then now let's look at the imperfect distribution of income and wealth as another factor that results to market failure. So income distribution. The market system is neutral on issues of income distribution. So the market tries to be very neutral when it comes to this. And then discrimination distorts earnings for women and minority groups, disabled persons, and people subject to illness and incapacity. So there's still issues of discrimination around, women, the salary that women get paid, people living with disabilities, people from minority groups, subject to people that may have a particular illness or may be considered around incapacity, being able or being unable to perform the required task accordingly. And then now all the legal HR structures or procedures need to kick in order to manage that process. So the market produces goods and services only for those who can afford it. This leads to some people having too many goods while others have too few goods. Okay, so if your financial resources allow you to have more goods than you need. For example, there are people that have 5 cars. You can only drive 1 car at the moment. But they decide that, they want an SUV, they want a sports car, and they want this and they want that. And there are people that just have 1 car that they share amongst the family members. So they have little because of their financial resources. So they don't have enough financial resources to enable them to buy as many cars as they wish to do so. Then the next point, the difference in income occurs because there is a difference in market power, unequal education or educational opportunities, discrimination, and inheritance. Okay, so these are issues that also cause imbalances in the market. The fact that there's a difference in market power, in the ownership of resources, there are still unequal educational opportunities amongst South Africans. Discrimination is still a huge factor in the markets, and also the inheritance. People that inherit wealth from grandparents who had an advantage in previous systems or regimes. So it's all discussed under the market imbalances, and those things do result in market failure. So just be aware of those points. All right, so let's sum up our lesson. So we've had quite an interesting lesson. There was lots to discuss. So we're just going to sum up some of the important concepts that we came across. So we looked at externalities, and we said these are costs not included in pricing of goods or services, and consequently there is a difference between private costs and private benefits, and also the social costs and social benefits of production. And then now we're going to look at what private costs are. So we said that private costs, that's the cost of producing the good or service, which translates into the prices that consumers pay. It's also called internal cost. And I said, just know the definition or know the alternative terminology that can also be used in that regard. And then also we learned about the private benefits. We said these are internal benefits that accrue over those who produce goods and buy these goods. For example, producing a bicycle, that would be the producer, and also using the bicycle, that would be the consumer. So the producer will benefit and the consumer will also benefit. And then moving on to social costs. Social costs, we know that we said the social costs are incurred by the whole society. So we as the society pay for those costs. And then with social benefits, we said that they benefit the entire society. For example, the infrastructure that is supplied by the government, that benefits us. For the fact that Rand Water is in a position to provide us with clean water, that is a benefit, because we could end up with illnesses if we consume water that is not purified. So the fact that you can open your tap and enjoy a good glass of water, and we know that water is a basic need according to Maslow when we look at the hierarchy of needs. So it's important to be able to distinguish between these different costs and benefits. And like I said earlier on, they become very important when we look at the cost-based analysis. Well, that's a wrap of today's lesson. I trust that you've enjoyed the lesson and that you learned so much from this lesson. From me, uSphiwe ngithi salani kahle.